Hi there, this is Juanita. Today I'm going to talk about my 3 containers that I did on a previous video. Somebody asked me if I could give an update on the tricolor. Now it hasn't completely bloomed for me, and neither has the Parrot's Beak or even so much pink spiral here. I think a lot of it is because it's not getting 6 to 8 hours of sun. However, they're still doing beautifully. So even for the foliage, they look amazing. My Dichondra, oh my gosh, this thing has grown. And one of the things about Dichondra that I wanted to point out is that I've noticed that Dichondra does so much better when it has partial shade. I have put it in natural lighting and it does beautiful. I've put it in direct sun and it just hasn't performed in the way that these ones have. Now this was performing really well for me, and all of a sudden it just kind of just like shriveled up and wanted to die. Now I wanted to talk about that because if you notice that these are really just basically dead. I mean, they're dry and they're just look dead. The whole plant looked like that. So I decided, well, I'm just going to go ahead and clip it back. And as I was clipping it, I noticed there was new growth. Now, this was yesterday when I started actually trimming this. And then I decided to stop because I figured you might want to see how it's done. But there's becoming new growth in this. And I have been keeping the water not too wet and not too dry. I'm going to examine the foliage to see if there's any new start, and see there's one right there. So I'm just going to clip it right above there, and I don't know how well I can do this one-handed. So I'm just going to clip it right there. And then I'm just going to kind of clean it up a little bit around that. And then as far as this here, I will probably, I don't see any really new growth here at all on this whole stem here. So I'm just going to go ahead and hopefully and make sure that there's no other limbs attached to it. And I'm just going to go ahead and take it down to that notch right there, and a new limb will come out here. And this one looks like it's got some buds that are trying to come out right there. So I'm going to go ahead and clip that one right there. So that's basically what I'm going to be doing, is clipping this back. But as you can see, it is doing well. I'm excited because it's even getting a new flower right here. So it's going to be very promising. And I'm excited about that. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and trim this, and then I'll bring you really close so you can see all of these. So there you go. So now it's really nice and pretty again. It's got a lot of life to it, and it's going to do really well. Now I cleaned even the dead leaves off of it merely because I want all the energy put into its new foliage and not even concentrate on anything that's dead. And that is the reason why I stripped it down. But it's looking alive. It's showing a lot of promise, so I'm happy with that. So here's my 3 containers. If you recall, I had a lily that kind of cascaded kind of in a curvature back there. I took that out, and I also took this plant out from behind this container because I wanted you to see these just by themselves so that you can actually see the foliage. Before it was kind of camouflaging them. And so I wanted to wait and see how many more blooms came in. But more specifically, I wanted to show you my Fairy White Selecta over here and how it's progressed since. Now, it is doing wonderful, so I'm happy to report to you guys that it is doing amazing. So with that said, I'm going to take you really close, but first I'm going to show you all the flowers that are blooming and what is not blooming, and hopefully that maybe you can even help me with some advice as to how I can get some of these to bloom. But look at my Peachy King. Isn't that gorgeous? It's beautiful. It's got a lot of new blooms. Some are dying, but you know what? New ones are coming up. Now, you don't really have to deadhead these. However, it does help. My Kudos Ambrosia. This has been a great performer for me, not only in a container, but also on the ground. It actually even grows better in the ground, but in the container it's still beautiful. This one's about done. I'll clip that off, but it's got new growth there. It's got new growth here, new growth here. And my Peachy King, look at the foliage on this. Isn't that a beautiful leaf? Now look at my container. Doesn't that leaf really mimic that? Now granted, the leaf is covered by foliage, but nevertheless it complements the container. Now I did add this Morning Glory to this bunch. I don't know if I had another plant in here and it may not have done well or something, I don't know, or I just had more room, but I added this in there and it just made it for a great addition. If you have any thoughts that you can help me with on my Parrot's Beak, on how to get it to bloom, please leave it in the comments below, because I would really like to know how to get it to bloom. I have given all 3 containers flowering fertilizer, and this one just isn't blooming for me, but it's doing great. It looks beautiful. And also my pink spiral, it didn't rebloom, but look at the foliage. The foliage is healthy. My Diamond Frost bloomed from the beginning, continuing to bloom. And this one here is for Cassie. Cassie, you wanted me to do a container update because you wanted to see my geranium in full bloom. It has never been in full bloom, but you know what? The foliage on this is so beautiful that the blooms doesn't really matter, because at the end of the day, the bloom is just a geranium bloom. Now, geraniums are considered an annual here. However, I've had geraniums on my porch for several years and they've bloomed year after year after year. This one here, this bloom here, was more alive, obviously, at the beginning of the video, but it is getting another flower here. But it doesn't need it. The foliage itself is beautiful. So you can't go wrong by planting that and grouping it with your plants. So now that I showed you all these plants, let me take you down so you can see the Fairy White Selecta. Now, the whole reason for doing this video was simply to show you that you can restore a plant. Maybe not necessarily back to its original state that it was, but at least giving it life back and knowing that it is going to start working its way to restoring itself back, if not better, into a fuller, healthier looking plant. Now, my mistake was simply that I was overwatering this plant. So with that being said, had I done my homework and really researched not only the Fairy White Selecta here, but also the Blow My Mind Morning Glory back here, because initially when I planted this, I only planted the Selecta in here, and then I went plant shopping and found this Morning Glory that was beautiful, so I decided to plant it. Had I done my homework and researched both of these, and their watering requirements, this would have never happened. So if you take anything away from this video, just by researching and knowing how to group your plants and how to water them according to their watering requirements and their fertilization requirements, you will do great in your garden. Now, in my opinion, doing plants in containers is no different than planting them on the ground. It's just that they may need a little bit more watering because they are above ground, and they also may also need to be grouped a little bit more diligently together according to their watering requirements. Now, that actually also works when you're planting in the ground itself too. So keep that in mind when you're planting plants. If you plant them with the same watering requirements, you will not have as many issues as you would otherwise, because you won't overwater one plant over the other, or not water one that requires more water. So I hope that you at least take away that just grouping your plants in the same container according to their watering requirements, their fertilization requirements, then you will be a much gardener for that. Again, my Dichondras on both containers, they're doing beautiful. They're just a fantastic addition to any container or basket or any retaining walls. Gorgeous. Love, love, love them. So with that said, let me circle you around. Oh, and the other thing too, while I'm sitting here, see my side garden over here? See, by just adding these 3 containers over in this side, just kind of made an extension to that garden and made it look like it was part of that side garden and made it more up front rather than having to go around the corner to see the plants. It just kind of, I don't know, it just kind of added to it. So that's something you can do as well if you have steps and you have something to block your garden, like a wall or something. Just know that you can put containers in front of it and it'll just add to that garden and make it even looking even that much nicer. But anyway, let me finish this video. Again, bear with me because I probably will repeat myself. Now, I'm not sure how large these get. I'll put it down here for you. I just can't think of it at the top of my head. But these are really great for hanging baskets, obviously for up-ground baskets, containers. They're just absolutely beautiful. And this blue blew my mind. Been a great performer this far, and it's grown since I bought it and put it in here. And I just think it just adds to the colors of the containers. It adds to the colors of the Dichondra because they put out this green-blue hue to it. And again, my Dichondras, they just really performed really well right here. I had, initially when I planted this container, I put the Dichondra on the other side, and it basically died. So I had to move it over to this side, and it just took off. So it really needs a little bit of sheltering from the direct sun. However, it's doing here with the heat wave that we've been doing. I don't know what, they're just a little finicky. All 3 containers are just doing fantastic. The growth on them is doing fantastic. So you know what, to me, I'm happy. And hope you are too. Okay, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and that notification button so you catch me on all my videos. Bye-bye for now.